meeting is being recorded. Okay, we'll chant some Mangalacharan prayers and then we'll start our Bhagavad Gita reading. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadadantikam Vandeham Shri Sapadkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Srirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Satam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Harijana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakhanvitam हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे
वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी
प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत राधा श्री वासादि गौरवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय
कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीनाथारणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरं गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तथालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः हरे कृष्णा Okay, so we'll start with chapter 14. So before we move on to chapter 14, anybody has any questions or realizations from chapter 13? Anyone wants to share? Okay, so let's start with chapter 14. So chapter 14 is titled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Okay, in Hindi, this chapter is called Gun Tray Vibhag Yog. Gun Tray Vibhag Yog. Okay. So before starting the chapter, we'll say the prayers that we say before starting a Bhagavad Gita chapter. You can recite behind me if possible. Om Shri Paramatmane Namah.
Om Shri Paramatmane
Namah. At Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
At Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
At Chaturdasho Adhyaya.
At Chaturdasho Adhyaya.
Gunatraye Vibhag Yog. So let's start with, we'll do two verses at a time. Let's do verse 1 and 2 together. So this chapter is talking about the three modes of material nature. And I think most of you are familiar with this concept of three modes. We've been talking about it from the very first chapter actually. And you've been repeatedly reinforced about this in your other classes. And I know kids have made some comic strips and other written essays on it. So I think you're all very familiar with this three modes of material nature. But we will go through the chapter at a brisk pace. Okay. So who would let's read and lead and follow. Recite this verse. 14.1 Bhagavad Gita. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Param Bhuya Pravakshami.
Param Bhuya Pravakshami.
Jnanam Jnanamuttamam.
ज्ञानाज्ञानमुत्तमम्
यज्ञात्वा मुनया सर्वे यज्ञात्वा
यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे
परां सिद्धिम् इतो गता
परां
परां सिद्धिम्
इतो
इतो
गता.
गतः.
Anyone wants to recite one more time and read the translation also.
श्री भगवान
Shri
श्री
Bhagavan Vacha
भगवानुवाच
परं भूय प्रवक्ष्यामि
परं भूय
Prakshami
प्रवक्ष्यामि
ज्ञानानां ज्ञानम् उत्मम
Jnanam Jnanamuttamam
ज्ञानमुत्तमम्
यज्ञात्वा पुण्यः सर्वे
Yajñātva
यज्ञात्वा पुण्या सर्वे
परां सिद्धिम् इतो गताः
परं सिद्धिमितो गताः.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection." Very well.
Let's read next also. So Krishna is saying that I will reveal this knowledge to you by which various sages have achieved perfection. Let's read 14.2 also. Idam jnanam upashritya
इदं ज्ञानमुपाश्रित्य
mam sadharmyam agata
मम साधर्म्यमागतः
sargepi nopajayante
सर्गे
नोपजायन्ते
pralena vyathanti cha.
प्रलयेन व्यथन्ति च.
Okay, anyone else wants to recite and read?
Can I, Mataji?
Mataji, I can do.
Sure.
Okay, Namita Mataji, go ahead. Go ahead, Mataji.
Oh, thanks. Hari bol. Idam jnanam upasatya
इदं ज्ञानमुपाश्रित्य
mama sadharmyam agataha
मम
Sadharmyam agata
साधर्म्यमागतः
sargepi nopajayante
सर्गे
सर्गेऽपि
nopajayante
नोपजायन्ते
pralayena vayanti cha.
प्रलये
प्रलयेन व्यथन्ति च.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Hari Bol.
Be bold. So, the first two verses, let's discuss those. In the first two verses, Krishna is glorifying the knowledge that he's about to give in this chapter, right? So, in the first verse, he's saying that I will declare this knowledge to you by knowing which the supreme wisdom, many sages have attained the supreme perfection. So, this is, in short, he's saying that this is very important knowledge, and by this you can attain supreme perfection. Because this knowledge, this is the reason, the three modes of material nature is the reason by which we are stuck in this material world. If we could give up our attachment to these three modes, if we could elevate ourselves above the three modes, then we can achieve perfection, we can achieve liberation from birth and death. So, and that is what Krishna is saying in the next verse, that by becoming fixed in this knowledge, you can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Transcendental nature like my own, meaning you can achieve your spiritual body, you can achieve your spiritual self, you can realize that you are the soul, that you don't have to be bound by this body, right? So, you can acquire your spiritual existence, and you know that spiritual existence, one does not take birth, so one is not born at the time of creation, so that cycle of creation and annihilation only happens in material world, right? Spiritual world is free from the creation and destruction, right? The whole the whole creation has two parts, right? Spiritual world and material world. So who can tell how much is the material world and how much is what is the proportion or the ratio of spiritual and material world? Yes, Prabhuji.
So Krishna, material world is one fourth, spiritual world is three fourth.
Yes. So majority spiritual world, right? All the Vaikuntha planets. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. There is Golok, Vrindavan. There are so many dhams, Mathura Dham, Dwarka Dham. So many dhams, right? They all come in the spiritual world, and that is 3/4. Whereas the 1/4 is the material world. So it's just like you imagine a city. In a city, the whole city has just like maybe one or two jails, right? The jail is not the whole city. The jail is just a small part where the criminals are sent, right? Similarly, the material world is a very small part of this whole creation where those jivas are sent that have gotten into this trap of false ego or hankar, that have developed this desire to become the Lord themselves. So they are sent to this jail of material world to be reformed, to be fixed of, to be freed of this disease they have developed. You can consider it a jail or you can consider it a hospital where they are been put to take treatment for this disease they have developed. Right? The hospital is not the whole city. Only sick people will go to the hospital, or only criminals will go to the jail. So, in this way, this is the material world like a jail, and the three modes of material nature are those jailers, the chains that are keeping us bound in this material world. They are keeping us in there. They are keeping us fixed in the material world. कि यहाँ से बाहर नहीं निकल सकते आप, हमको बांध के रखते हैं, like gunas. Guna or modes of material nature is what is binding us here in this material world. And guna, the word guna in Sanskrit literally translates into ropes. Rope. So rope की तरह काम करते हैं. These three modes of material nature act like ropes or chains that are keeping us bound here, right? And Krishna will describe what are those ropes, and I'll show you a picture also that will give a better idea. So if you see in this picture, these three modes are how they are keeping the jiva bound, right? So this is the golden one. Golden chain is the mode of goodness. This red lady, this is the mode of passion. And this dark one, this is the mode of ignorance or mode of darkness, right? So Rajogun, Tamogun, and Satogun. So these are keeping us bound in this material world, and they are making us like puppets. They're made the jiva like a puppet. So the jiva has given into the wishes of the three modes um, and acting according to the will of the three modes, right? So we know the people that are seeking spiritual path understand that we have to become a puppet in the hands of Krishna, not a puppet in the hands of material nature, right? If we become a puppet in the hands of Krishna, then we will be transcendental to these three modes. Then we will be controlled by Krishna, not by the three modes, right? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very beautiful verse that says, कृष्णा सूर्य समा माया है अंधकारा जहां कृष्णा तहां नहीं मायरा अधिकारा. Krishna is like Surya, Krishna is like light, and Maya is like darkness. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara. Maya or material nature is like Andhakar, like darkness, like ignorance. Jahan Krishna, where there is Krishna, taha nahi Mayara Adhikara. Once you put yourself in the hands of Krishna, once you make yourself puppet of Krishna, then the three modes of material nature will have no control over you. So that is what we should hanker for. We should hanker to put ourselves in the service of Krishna, not in the service of of the material nature. So this is the so he's saying by acquiring this knowledge, many sages have achieved supreme perfection. He uses the word muni here. So muni, the word muni is very. It's a beautiful word because muni comes from the word मौन. कि जो लोग मौन रहते हैं, जो लोग ज़्यादा नहीं बोलते, they're very sober, gentle people who don't who use their speech with discrimination, right? They don't say things unless needed, unless they're asked of their opinion. So they are muni, that use all their senses very discriminately, not just speech, but all their senses very discriminately, but typically refers to speech, the one who keeps mom. Now, if you remember in Bhagavatam, I think it's the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam that says, श्रीमद्भागवतं महामुने कृते किं वापरेरीश्वरा. So there the word comes Mahamuni. So it is described by our Acharya that Muni is the one who keeps mon, and Mahamuni refers to whom in that verse? Let's see. You can answer. In second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahamuni refers to whom? धर्मा प्रोजितकेतवत्र परमा निर्मत्सराणां सताम् वेद्यशास्त्रवं अत्र वस्तु शिवदम् तापात्रयोन्मूलनाम् श्रीमद्भागवतं महामुने कृते किं वापरेरीश्वरा साध्यारिति अवरुध्यते अत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तक्षणात्. So this verse was spoken by the same person and Mahamuni is the same person. Who is that person?
माता जी चैट में आ गया आंसर व्यास
Oh,
देव
and Nirvi Prabhu revealed it. Vyasdev, right? Vyasdev ने खुद को ही महामुनि बोला है. It's not like he's glorifying himself, but Vyas is giving his qualification. Why am I qualified to speak Srimad Bhagavatam? So Ved Vyas is referred to as Mahamuni. So Muni is somebody who keeps mon, but Mahamuni is somebody who speaks Harikatha. Right? So Mahamuni is not just keeping mon. Mahamuni is Ved Vyas who's speaking Harikatha. So that is, I just realized that this word is used by Krishna. I wanted to the meaning, the background of this word. Okay, so he says that by this many munis, many sages have achieved great perfection. Then he says in the second verse that by becoming fixed in this knowledge, you can attain the transcendental nature like my own, meaning you will attain your Siddhaswarup, your spiritual body, your relation, you will understand your relationship with me, right? And then you will not be disturbed by creation or annihilation, because creation and annihilation happen in material world. So once we are freed from the material world, we go to spiritual world, there is no creation or annihilation. So you will not be stuck in the cycle of birth and death or creation and annihilation anymore. You will be freed from that cycle. So by understanding this knowledge. And this knowledge, if you see this knowledge, we always say this is transcendental knowledge, right? Transcendental knowledge means that a knowledge which is not affected by the three modes, right? It is transcendental. It connects you to Krishna. It is not just improving your material life. It is not just improving your material situation. That is material knowledge, which improves your material situation. So you get more money or you get more fame or name or reputation. That is material knowledge. But the knowledge that connects you to Krishna is the transcendental knowledge, right? And that transcendental knowledge puts you on the same platform as the Krishna himself, meaning on a spiritual platform. So you will acquire your spiritual identity, you will get freed from the material activities, and purport Prabhupada is describing that such a person will continue his existence in a spiritual form. He will continue spiritual existence, right? He will continue his spiritual activities, he will continue to perform pure devotional service to the Lord. He will not become formless. He will still have a form, which is a spiritual form, with which he will be able to continue serving the Lord, right? So that is the perfection of life. So then the next two verses, let's read those. The next two verses talk about how Jiva came in contact or came in control of these three modes of material nature. So we saw that Jiva became puppet of these three modes. How Jiva became the puppet of these three modes. So let's read the next two. 14.3 Mam Yonir Brahma
ममयोनिर्महद्ब्रह्मा
तस्मिन् गर्भं ददाम्यहम्
तस्मिन् गर्भं ददाम्यहम्
सम्भवा सर्वभूतानां
सम्भवा सर्वभूतानां
ततो भवति भारत.
ततो भवति भारत.
Anyone else wants to read and recite?
I can.
Yes.
Mam yonirmahad brahma
Mamyo Mahad Brahma
tasmin garbham dadamyaham
Tasmin
तस्मिन्
Garbham
गर्भं
Dadamyaham
ददाम्यहम्
sambhavaye sarva bhutanam
Sambhava
Sambhava
Sarvabhutanam
सर्वभूतानां
tato bhavati bharata.
Tato
Tato
ततो
Bhavati
भवति
Bharata.
भारत
The
Haribol.
total Haribol, the total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the birth of living being, O son of Bharata. Haribol.
Okay, let's do one more before we discuss these. 14.4. This is very, very important shloka. So let's read it a few times. Some of you have already memorized it, right? Who all have memorized it? Was it in the list of 50? Yes. So Vedai, Avni, then Vinita should also know. Yes. Okay. So we should all memorize it. Let's read it at least recite it 3 times. 14.4. Sarvayoneshu Kaunteya
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय
Murtya Sambhavanti Ya
Murtaya
मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति या
Tasham Brahma Mahadyoner
तासां ब्रह्म महयोनिर्
Aham Bija Pradapita.
Aham
अहं बीजप्रदाता
Okay, let's read. Whoever wants to read and recite a few times, let's do that.
I can Mataji.
Yes.
Okay. Sarva yonisu konteya.
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
Murtaya sambhavanti ya.
Murtaya
Sambhavanti Ya
सम्भवन्ति या
Asham brahma mahyadionir.
Tasam
Tasham
ब्रह्मा
Brahma
महद्योनिर्
Aham bija pradapita.
Aham
Bija
प्रदापिता
Pradapita.
Translation padhu Mataji.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So yeah, let's. Sheetal Mataji, you wanted to recite?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, devotees. सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय
Sarvayo
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
मूर्ताया सम्भवन्ति या
Murtaya
Murtaya
Sambhavanti Ya
Sambhavantya.
तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिर्
Tasam
Tasam Brahma Mahadyoner
अहं बीजा प्रदापिता
Aham
Bija Pradapita.
हरि बोल
Haribol.
Anyone else wants to recite? Okay, the kids can recite from memory. Let me hide it. Yes. Who wants to recite? From memory. With the eyes closed and hands folded. Yes, Vinita.
Hare Krishna. Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
Murtaya Sambhavanti ya
Murtaya
Murtaya
Sambhavanti Ya
Asham Brahma Mahadyonir
Tasham
Tasam
Brahma Mahadyoner
Aham Bija Pradapita.
Aham
Aham
Bija Pradapita.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, whether you want to recite?
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय
Sarvayoni
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः
Murtaya
Sambhavanti Ya
तासां ब्रह्ममहद्योनिर्
Tasam
Brahma Mahadyoner
अहं बीजप्रदापिता
Aham
Pradapita.
Haribol.
Very bold. Okay, is Nambi around? Maybe Prabhu? Okay. Who else?
No, Navya is reading something.
Okay. Okay. So this verse very, very important. Please try to memorize. So let's discuss these two. Verse number 13 and 14. Sorry, 3 and 4. So 14.3, Krishna says, this total material substance. Now this is a little confusing. I was actually very confused by what is written here. Mahad Brahma. So Mahat Brahma, Prabhupada has translated as Brahman. Now we have always understood that Brahman is the spiritual substance, right? Spiritual platform. But here Mahat Brahma in purport Prabhupada is describing that sometimes Mahat Brahma refers to the total material. Mahat Tattva I know. Mahat Tattva is always referring to material substance in which all the ahankara, the 23 elements, material elements, they are all there in unmanifested form, right? That is Mahat Tattva. So that is sometimes called Mahat Brahma. And Krishna is saying, Tasmin Garbham Dadami Aham, me. I inject or impregnate in that garbh, in that so like Mahat Tattva is the garbh, Mahat Tattva is the mother, is the material nature into which Krishna injects or impregnates these jivas, all kind of species he injects into that Mahat Tattva. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam, and through that all the living beings are arisen, they are they generate, and that is the source of birth basically. So the material substance into which Krishna impregnates all these jiva, then these jivas acquire a material body, right? So imagine that there is this cloud in this whole spiritual world. There is this cloud, dark black cloud, okay, which is just 1/4 of the total existence. That black cloud is called Mahatattva. It is just like a cloud in which there are various ingredients for material existence, but they have not gotten manifested yet. There are gunas, there are all those 23 material elements that we talked about in the last chapter, right? There is air, water, fire, ether, earth, all those elements are there. There are sense objects, there are all these senses, all these things are there in unmanifested form. Then Jiva, who is actually a spiritual being, is impregnated into this big cloud by Krishna. And that Jiva, based on his previous acts, based on his karma, based on his previous deeds, will get a body. Okay, the body will be given to him by this Mahatattva, by this material nature. He will get the body, he will get certain propensities, he will get certain inclinations, he will acquire certain gunas. Some people are more in the control of mode of goodness, some people are more in the control of mode of ignorance. कुछ लोग तामसिक होते हैं ज़्यादा, कुछ सत्व गुण में होते हैं, कुछ रजो गुण में, right? कोई एनिमल स्पीशीज में है, कोई ह्यूमन स्पीशीज में है, कोई डिमोनियक स्पीशीज में है, कोई डेमीगॉड बन जाएगा. So in this way, different species of life are being generated after the jiva are impregnated into this Mahad Brahm or Mahat Tattva by the Krishna. Krishna says, I do this. Aham. Tasmin Garbham Dadamyaham. Okay. Is 23 Tattva or 24? Yes, Prabhuji. So if you remember, the 24th thing is the Pradhan, which is basically the unmanifested thing itself. So in that big unmanifested thing, there are all these elements, which are 23 elements. So Pradhan is the unmanifested material nature itself, plus 23 elements into it. And when into this Jiva enters along with the Ahankar, then Jiva acquires a body based on his inclination. So that is why I'm saying 23, because of the Pradhan being the 24th. And we can read a part of this purport. I had highlighted some portion. This portion we can read. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice, and sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of rice. But the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body created by this material nature, so that the entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all the manifestations of the living entities in this world. So Prabhupada is giving this analogy that scorpion lays its egg in a pile of rice. So when the baby scorpions come, we can't say that the rice has given birth to the baby scorpions, right? Because the mother scorpion laid the egg. So mother scorpion is the cause of those baby scorpions coming out of the rice. So rice is not the reason why those baby scorpions come. So similarly, material nature is not the reason why we are taking birth. We are injected by Krishna, by Bhagwan, into this material existence. And the reason we were injected there is because of our own desires, because of our own inclination to enjoy separate from Krishna, because of our own desire to lord it over everything and everybody, right? So that so ultimately jiva's desire is the cause. Krishna is based on our desire is putting us into the material world, and based on our inclination the material nature is giving us the body. So इसलिए Krishna is the father because he injected the seed, the jiva, into the garb, into the material nature, and material nature is the mother because she gave us the body, right? We got the body, animal body, human body, plant body, body with different propensities, different tendencies, was given by the material nature. That's why she's the mother and Krishna is the father. And next verse, that is why this next verse was so important, because he declares himself that I am the seed giving father. So all these species of life are made possible by birth in this material nature, and I am the seed giving father. So we need everything, like everything is needed to cause this jivas to take birth. We need the material nature, which is like mother, to give us body. We are the ones having this desire to take birth, so that is why we are injected into this material nature, and Krishna is also the cause because he is putting us there. Yes, Sheetal Mataji, you want to share something?
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes,
So
Mataji.
I just want to understand the pradhan plus 3 modes of material nature is equal to Brahman. Is that understanding correct? From the previous?
Mataji, apna Brahman word you only understand because Brahman is typically used for spiritual platform. So don't use the word Brahman, but you can use the word Mahat.
From the context of the previous verse, Mataji.
So I would recommend using the word Mahat Tattva, because that is more commonly used everywhere, like in Srimad Bhagavatam and by devotees. So Mahat Tattva or Mahat Brahm, you can say Mahat Brahm. Yes, Mataji, your understanding is correct. The
Pradhan plus 3 modes is the Mahat Tattva.
Yes, Mataji. Okay. You can imagine it like this cloud into which all the jivas are going to be impregnated. So Mahat Tattva is basically a very initial form of Prakriti, before Prakriti is getting manifested, before Prakriti is injected with spiritual entity, right? Otherwise it can, all that Mahat Tattva is just dead matter. But when jivas are impregnated into it, that's when the Kshetra and Kshetragya combine, right? That's when it gets activated. So otherwise it is in a very inactive form. So that initial form of Prakriti is basically Mahat Tattva or Mahat Brahma. Is that clear, or anybody else has any question?
Yes, Mataji, one question.
Yes.
The Mahatattva you are saying, is it also we say Mahavishnu, or Mahavishnu is different?
No, Mataji, Mahat Tattva is just Prakriti. Mahavishnu is Bhagwan. Mahavishnu is an expansion from Lord. Mahavishnu is, so you know there are so many expansions from Lord, right? From Krishna, the first expansion is Balram. From Balram, there are so many other expansions, the Chaturvyuha, then Narayan forms, right? So in this way, finally there are 3 Purusha avatars: Mahavishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So they are completely different. They are the Vishnu Tattva, they are expansions from Lord himself.
Okay, somewhere I read these two terms together. That's why I'm confused. So, okay.
Mataji, वो तो Mahat Tattva is to Prakriti. Now, in Prakriti, so the role of Mahavishnu you can understand like this, that Mahavishnu is also known as Karnodakshay Vishnu, right? Karnodakshay Vishnu lays in the Karna ocean, and from him many universes emanate, right? those universes, those material universes that emanate from him, they are part of Prakriti. They are part of this Prakriti. But Mahatattva is a very, very different terminology. So not to confuse, just because Maha word is coming, it doesn't make it same. But Karnodaksha Vishnu is the source of various universes that emanate from him, from the pores of his body with each and every breath. Every time he exhales, so many universes emanate from his body. Every time he inhales, all those universes go back into his body. And into each universe, Karnodaksha Vishnu expands as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, right? And from his navel comes Brahmaji, who takes charge of that particular universe. And Garbhodaksha Vishnu expands into each and every living entity as Paramatma or Shirodaksha Vishnu, right? But Mahatattva is just a very prelim form of material existence. जैसे कि कोई paint की bottle है, right? But it has not become a painting yet. So that is, you can say, unmanifested form of material universe, which is inactive, in an inactive state right now. Okay, anybody else? Does that clarify, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Purush avatars and Vishnu avatar and all the expansions from Krishna are, very. The Purush avatars have a role in this material world because they run this material world. They are expansions from Krishna and they run this material world, but they are not. They're also aloof from this material world. Krishna is always aloof from this material world, right? He does not participate in any of its activities. Okay, anybody wants to add to that? Ravi Prabhu? Yeah, whether he wants to add something?
No, I have a question. So, I was just reading through the purport of the second verse in chapter 14. What
Yes.
does it mean by it says, after acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What does that mean?
Yes, very nice question, Vedhi. So, qualitative equality with Supreme. So, you know that we are made of the same tattva, same qualities as Krishna, right? We have the same spiritual substance, right? Satchidanand Roop, right? The soul, the Jiva is also Satchidanand and Krishna is also Satchidanand, right? But we are not able to realize that qualities because we are contaminated by the three modes of material nature, right? So we think that we are this body, right? We don't think that we are Satchidanand. So we are able to realize qualitative equality with the Supreme or realize our spiritual form with the help of this transcendental knowledge. Right? We are qualitatively same as Krishna, but quantitatively very minute. Quantitatively, Krishna is infinite, we are infinitesimal. We are very, very small, and Krishna is infinite. But qualitatively, we are same. It's like a drop of ocean has same qualities as the whole ocean itself. A drop of gold is also same chemistry, same compound as the pot of gold. So in this way, qualitatively we are same, but we have forgotten. It's like a golden ring falls into dirty water, जैसे कि नाली में गिर गई, हाँ नाली, you know, इंडिया में तो होती है नाली, यहाँ पे नहीं होती. Into the dirty black water, huh? A golden ring falls down, and the golden ring becomes black also. So the golden ring forgets that it was ever golden. उसके ऊपर there are so many layers of black stuff on it, black murky stuff on it, that it forgets it's golden inside. So somebody has to pick it from the nali and wash it to show, look, you are also your golden ring, your diamond ring. You're not same as that nali water, dirty water where you had fallen. So that is how the transcendental knowledge elevates us from the murky, dirty water of the Nali to give us our Siddh Swaroop, our actual real form, golden form. Does that make sense? Yes, Prabhuji.
Just to also like basically what Krishna is saying, Mataji explained so well. It's like our identity. Right now we are identifying ourselves, very much like the Hatmika Buddhi. I am this, I am this. So once we get this knowledge, then we go beyond these identities. So we will be identifying ourselves like there is no discrimination, you and me and everything else. So you can imagine that state is far, far away from so much of contamination. But yes, Krishna has already said it. If you know this knowledge, that's it. You are going to be part of me. Means basically you will acquire the transcendent. Right now we are in the either goodness or passion or ignorance. Make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. So yes, our qualities are currently covered by the Prakriti, by the three modes of the three gunas of material nature. They're currently covered, right? That like that golden ring example. But they are not lost. So we can uncover our original roop or our original qualities by if we are determined. So if Jiva is really determined, they can come out of this Prakriti. They can come out of the influence of the three modes and realize their true nature. Okay, so we can find a true shine. Okay, so this verse 3 and 4 basically Jiva, according to his past activities, will get a body which will be created by the material nature. Material nature will give us the body and based on our previous deeds. And in this way, the entity can enjoy or suffer based on what his desires were, right? Like we always give examples, जैसे कि somebody likes to eat a lot. So then maybe he will get the body of an elephant next time. So he can eat. How much does an elephant eat every day? I forgot. Nirbhay Prabhu knows.
Oh, actually, I was else. But anyways, for this, I think आठ मन या कितना कहते हैं? I don't know how it translates. But it is a lot.
Eats a lot, right? So you'll get elephant body because that's what you desired. You wanted to eat. You spent your life eating a lot, so you will get that. Some people don't like to wear clothes. They are always showing off their body, right? You will get a body of a tree next life because you don't have to wear you don't have to wear clothes, and you can stand for many years showing off your body. So whatever your inclination is, the mother nature will give the body according to that inclination, right? Or whatever your desires were. If you have desires in mode of goodness, then okay, maybe you will get to do charity. You'll get a lot of wealth, so you can spend it on poor people and help others. So whatever your inclinations were, will enjoy or suffer according to our past deeds, right? So the Krishna is the father because he's impregnating the mother nature with the jiva, and material nature is the mother because she's giving us the body that we wanted. So this is basically like a jail in which we are stuck, right? So the cause of this existence, like somebody say, why do jails exist? Huh? It is the fault of the government that the jails exist. But no, the jail exists because criminals exist, right? The criminals exist because they have those criminal desires, criminal propensities, sinful desires. So they commit sins or crimes, and so in order to fix them, they have to be put into the jail. So if they could fix themselves of their criminal desires, then there will be no need for jails if there are no criminals. So similarly, the material world exists. Krishna had to construct a material world, just like government had to construct a jail so that the jivas can be fixed of their contaminated desires. Right? So this is a chance for us to purify ourselves. So we cannot blame the government for making the jail, just like we cannot blame Krishna for making this material world. बोलते हैं ना कि दुनिया बनाने वाले क्या तेरे मन में समाया तूने काहे को दुनिया बनाई. तो उसने दुनिया बनाई because there was a need, just like in a town there is a need for jail because we had these contaminated desires, the false ego, the ahankar, and we needed to be purified. So we are now put here in this jail. And now with this transcendental knowledge, we are trying to understand how to get out of this jail, right? Otherwise, we'll keep getting body after body, different types of body, animal, plant, demon, demigod, whatever. Okay, yes, anybody wants to share or ask anything? And we can do maybe one or two more. Yes. Yes, Nirbhay.
I was just realization about it that Mahatattva, you can think about it like Darwin was partially correct. No, not Darwin, or whoever made that theory of, that's out of the, primordial soup, that something was impregnated in the primordial soup, and then from the primordial soup, slowly the chemicals got rearranged, and then the microbial forms were formed, and then so on. So just like that, we can consider Mahatattva like that primordial soup. So they were partially correct. That it's a inactive state that is there, and but then there's the concept of life comes from pre-existing life. So that's so combining those two concepts scientifically, kind of we can understand this, try to understand this, that Mahatattva is like that primordial soup where everything is inactive, but it is like the everything is in a state where when life enters into it, it can transform and get into the bodies. And how is the life incorporated into it? Not by chance, that is by the will of Krishna. So Krishna impregnates that seed into the Prakriti as the material nature, and then from there the everything is formed. And there's the evolution is not very well supported, that part, because already there are so many species, and here we are saying Krishna says that there was never a time when you were not there or I was not there. So the soul is always there. So the soul is always there. The form you get is based upon multiple things, like we have read in the 8th chapter. What we are thinking at the time of death and all that decides what kind of body you're going to get, what your sanskaras are, your subtle body, what is carrying forward to the next life. So all that decides what kind of body you're going to get, right? But Mahatattva can just be thought about as an inactive substance, but that is required for this material creation to happen. So there's a huge spiritual sky. In that spiritual sky, there is a small cloud, which is the Mahatattva. And in that Mahatattva, Krishna impregnates the souls, and then the combination of the souls into the Mahatattva gives the forms and bodies and so on. So after every annihilation, the big annihilation, everything after the 100 years of Lord Brahma, everything dissolves back into Mahatattva, and all the forms go back into Krishna. But they're not merged into Krishna. They are separate. They have separate entities inside the original being. Okay, and then in creation, again, everything comes out and gets impregnated again. So the cycle continues. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Nirbal Prabhu. Let's read at least one more. This is very small.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Vaidehi has one small question.
Yes, Vaidehi.
So is this Mahatattva in the spiritual world or material world?
Material world.
Okay.
Is everybody clear about this?
So the Mahatattva is the material part. It resides. So there is a huge spiritual world. Out of that spiritual world, there's a small area which is of the material world, and that is all inside the Mahatattva. Right?
Yes.
Is not a split.
Let me see if I can show some picture for this. Very hard to show a picture of this. I'll try to find something because everything shows spiritual world. Nobody has depicted. Okay, here, maybe this picture. Okay, it's hard to see because so many things on it, but you see a cloud here? There is a whole world there, with various Vaikuntha planets, various Kailash Dham, Sadashiv Lok, there is Brahma Jyoti, and above there will be many other planets. But there is this cloud, right? This cloud is where the Prakriti will be manifested. This is like a unmanifested Prakriti right now. That is called Mahatattva. So it's a very small portion in the entire cosmic creation. I can't find any of the pictures.
I think we'll all have to go to the TOVP once it's made. We'll plan to make a.
Yes.
I'm saying we'll probably plan to make a tour together to Temple of Vedic Planetarium once it's inaugurated in a few years. Then we can understand all this really nicely. It's going to be the
So
biggest
excited
in the world.
Okay, yes. Temple of Vedic Planetarium, for those who don't know, is being constructed in Mayapur. So it'll be a huge. This was the vision of Prabhupada. It is depicting all these things that you're asking. But just big spiritual sky, and in one area, one small corner, very small portion is this cloud called Mahatattva. That is basically material nature. This is where all the material universes will reside. Okay. To keep it just simple, that is the understanding. Let's read one more.
Sorry, Mataji. So at the time of annihilation, that Mahatattva remains?
It is, it will all enter into the body of Mahavishnu, and everything will regenerate again, right? So after 100 years of Brahma, when the Mahapralay happens, so the mini Pralay happens after 1 day of Brahma, Mahapralay happens after the 100 years of Brahmaji, and then everything will enter into the body of Mahavishnu. And then when the creation happens again, all the Mahatattva and everything will also come out again, and universes will be regenerated.
Yeah. But my understanding is Mahatattva is still there. Mahatattva is just that inactive form. So all the souls go back into Mahavishnu, the Mahatattva remains. Like Mahatattva is just the inactive thing that remains.
So in the material platform, even though annihilation has occurred, right?
That is all.
Everything will become unmanifest, Mataji. This is unmanifest. Mahatattva is unmanifest. जिसमें there is no form. And then it will become manifest when the creation happens. And when the annihilation happens, everything becomes unmanifest again. And mini pralay or mahapralay may be different. In one, only the jivas go back into the body of Mahavishnu. And in Mahapralay, all the universes also enter into the body of Mahavishnu. After mini pralay, the universes stay, but the jivas go away. After Mahapralay, the universes also go away. That is too technical. Let's not. We should read Bhagavatam for that. Bhagavatam, the whole canto, second canto, is dedicated to this only. This is only one verse. Very hard to describe the whole canto of Bhagavatam in one verse. Yes, Hima, you have a question?
Yeah, just one question. You said Mahapralaya, when it happens, so the whole universe, all the universes, dissolve. So in that case, if there are jivas who haven't attained, enlightenment, they just dissolve too? Like they don't take rebirth?
No, not dissolve. Nobody dissolves. Every jiva is an individual spiritual identity, right? So every jiva maintains a spiritual identity. They just enter back into the body of Mahavishnu, and when the creation happens again, they are again injected into the material world. So they just lie dormant for many ages, and then when the creation happens again, they again get manifested and get another body. So they're still stuck in the cycle of birth and death and cycle of creation and annihilation. So this annihilation and creation is a very difficult concept to understand, but for that we should refer to Srimad Bhagavatam. Here basically the concept to understand is that Krishna is the source of all jivas. He has put us into this material world, and the material nature has given us this body based on our desires. That is the main concept to understand. And the basic concept is that spiritual world is huge, material world is very small. Material world is more for just our reformation, and until and unless we purify ourselves, we'll be stuck in this material world through ages, like through various birth and death, and through the cycles of creation and annihilation of the material world, which is stuck there, right? And then what happens at the end of annihilation are various very difficult topics to understand. Yes, the universes enter into the body of Mahavishnu, jivas enter into the body of Mahavishnu, they all lay dormant, and the creation happens again, they are again injected into the Mahatattva, like that. So we are just stuck for ages and ages through various cycles. Okay, if you're okay, this is very short, and this is the opening now this is actually the opening into the 14th chapter. This is the introduction into the 14th chapter. So 14.5. सत्वं रजस्तमा इति
सत्वं रजस्
सत्वरजस्तमा इति
गुणा प्रकृति संभवा
गुणा
गुणा प्रकृति संभवा
निबध्नन्ति महाबाहो
निबद्ध
निबध्नन्ति
निबध्नन्ति
महाबाहो
महाबाहो
देहे देहिनामव्ययम्
देहे
देहे
देहिनामव्ययम्
देहिनामव्ययम्
Okay, anybody wants to read and recite this?
सत्वं रजस्तम इति
सत्वं रजस्तम इति
गुणाः प्रकृति संभवाः
गुणा
गुणा प्रकृति संभवा
निबध्नन्ति महाबाहो
निबधन्ति
निबध्नन्ति
महाबाहो
महाबाहो
देहे देहिनम् अव्ययम्
देहे
देहिनामव्ययम्
अव्ययम्
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjun, he becomes conditioned by these modes. Haribol.
This is very straightforward. We've already talked about this, that material nature consists of the three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance, satogun, tamogun, rajogun. And when the eternal living entity, eternal meaning a spiritual, Satchidanand living entity, Jiva, comes in contact with this material nature, then he becomes conditioned by these modes. Meaning he becomes, conditioned means he becomes trapped by these modes. He comes under the control of these three modes, like that picture I showed, where the modes were controlling him like chains. एक सोने की chain है, एक silver chain है और एक iron chain है, but they're all chains. So you may want to be under the control of सोने की chain. सोने की chain is better than iron chain. Iron chain is better than sorry, silver chain is better than the iron chain, right? But still they're all chains only. So we have to ultimately free ourselves, be transcendental to these three modes. But for now, when we are in contact with the three modes of material nature, we are stuck here. So Jiva has nothing to do with this material nature, right? The source of his suffering is that he has identified himself with this material body and material nature, and he is putting himself in the control of three modes, and that is why he is suffering. He is entangled. So he starts acting according to the nature of that particular body that he has been given, and then he goes through variety of happiness and distress, right? जैसे कि अभी latest example comes to my mind about what happened in Oxford, right? What mode did Will Smith put himself in? Which mode did he let him control when he slapped Chris Rock? Which was it, mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance?
ignorance.
Mode of
Ignorance.
right? So very easy to get controlled by the three modes of material nature. Very hard to control. Sometimes we fall under the control of the lower mode. Mode of ignorance is the lower mode. Mode of goodness is the higher mode, right? And mode of passion is intermediate. And most of us are not just stuck in one mode. Our nature fluctuates. Like we cannot just say entirely that some person is good or bad. Sometimes we just let our lower mode control us, the mode of ignorance or mode of darkness control us, and then we have to suffer the consequences, right? So we are stuck in the variety of happiness and distress based on the type of mode that we let ourselves be controlled with. So this is the opening of the chapter, because this is about three modes of material nature. And Anita Mataji is sharing very nice realizations in the chat. She's sharing, therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, or Tattvata. Yes, Mataji, very nice. So, tato mam tattvato gyatva vishte tadanantaram. Right? That is a very beautiful shloka that most kids have memorized. That somebody who crosses over the three modes of material nature can only know me. And vishte tadanantaram. He will cross over this material world. He will attain my nature, spiritual nature. Yes, Prabhuji, you want to share?
No, Mataji, just to get the kids little bit more like that, the actor Will Smith got the control by the ignorance, but then he acted in passion. So he actually had this both. Otherwise, he would have just sat there. He was completely in ignorance. So he had to get up and go and slap him. So that's what my understanding, Mataji.
Yes, most of us in this material world, we are putting ourselves in the mode of ignorance and passion only. Mode of goodness people are very rare, and those people that are in mode of goodness, it is easier for them to come to spiritual path. It is more mode of goodness is most conducive for spiritual path. But having said that, it is still possible even in mode of ignorance. I know that I was in mode of ignorance. But Krishna Bhakti is such that it will elevate anybody, even the most fallen people, like those hippies that Prabhupada elevated, right? They were in mode of ignorance. They were doing all kind of drugs and illicit sexual activities and whatnot. But he elevated them, he made them transcendental, above not only mode of ignorance, but above mode of goodness, transcendental. So the only thing I want you to get out of this class today is that we not only have to go above these three modes, we have to become transcendental. We have to go beyond the three modes. We have to become transcendental. Transcendental word is so commonly used by Prabhupada in his Bhagavad Gita. And transcendental is literal meaning is to go beyond the three modes of material nature. So, okay, we'll stop here and then actually next time is Ram Navami, so we might do Ram Katha. And then after that, we have a very senior Vaishnav visiting us. I'm sure he will be doing some classes, so we will show his classes whenever he's doing. It may not be on, it won't be on Sunday morning. We will post the time when he does the class that weekend, but we will be hosting him here in Jackson. Very important to us because he's our teacher. And we will be doing our monthly Sankirtan festival, many programs, we are doing a yagya and so many things with him. So we'll post all those events on Zoom, but definitely a class as well that he will take. And next time is Ram Navami. Next Sunday is actually Ram Navami. So we will observe Ram Navami. And next Sunday we'll do some Ram Katha. So for next two times we won't be reading Bhagavad Gita if that's okay. So continue again after that. Yes, Prabhuji.
I got the confirmation. They said the Ram Navami fasting is still kind of in a gray zone. Some temples follow till sunset, some temple till noon. But when I asked directly to प्रभु जी, सुबिलास प्रभु जी, आप क्या करते हैं बताइए, वो हम करेंगे. तो बोले हम we have been doing till noon, so we'll do the noon. And then he said also the same thing. Some temples follow the Ekadashi karke, like the grains. They don't eat the grains on that day, but some temple otherwise. So again, according to Subilas Prabhuji, he has been doing the everything like a feast. You can have everything after the noon fasting. So
So
just wanted to
everything, not Ekadashi food, everything, any food is fine, right?
food, yeah, you can break the fast with the fruits, but then you can eat grains also that day.
Feasting, general feasting.
General.
Fasting till noon, general feasting.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So that's so everybody understood. Prabhuji shared that on Ram Navami we can fast till noon. Basically, when Vishnu Tattva appears, any Vishnu Tattva, we fast till the time of their appearance that day. So since Ramji appeared in the midday or at noon time, we fast till then because once the Vishnu Tattva has appeared, then everybody's celebrating and feasting, right? Till then everybody is fasting. So after he appears, then we feast. And feasting, he was clarifying that you can break your fast with some Ekadashi type things like fruits, but then you can eat general feasting, whatever you want to eat. So eat.
तो माता जी इवन गौर पूर्णिमा में भी ऐसे ही करते हैं ना कि एकादशी का करते हैं गौर पूर्णिमा में.
गौर पूर्णिमा पे तो एकादशी का ही किया था माता जी. हम लोग तो वृंदावन में थे. They taught us there that you break fast with Ekadashi. So we did, and we were eating in temple anyway. So whatever we were given, we ate. So we ate Ekadashi Prasadam. But we will follow just whatever Shubhalas Prabhu says. So we can break fasting at noon with some fruit. We can just, so that will fulfill both criteria. We can break with fruit and then eat just general feasting. Okay.
गौर पूर्णिमा में माता जी feasting होता है इवनिंग में. You can eat all the भोग लगाने के बाद सब खा सकते हैं.
अच्छा, मतलब ग्रेन्स भी, राइट?
हाँ, लेकिन वो वृंदावन गई ना, बोली ना, वो सब अभी भी थोड़ा थोड़ा कहीं कहीं ग्रे जोन है. बेसिकली यू फॉलो योर लोकल अथॉरिटी, दैट्स व्हाट मंजुलाली माता सेड. सो लोकल अथॉरिटी हम लोग ने अभी, मैंने हम लोगों ने माना है सुबिलास पर होगी, तो वो जो करेंगे हम फॉलो करेंगे, बस हो गया.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji. And if you're not sure, you can always break with something Ekadashi style food, and then you can, like fruits is fine, and then you just do general feasting.
So
Okay.
yeah, she said Ekadashi fasting जो break होता है, that is ideal.
It is ideal even science wise also. Once every time when we fast, we should not eat too much, should not load. So generally fruits, light snack, like light fast breaking is always a good idea. But yes, but there is no restrictions. We can have other.
Thank you.
Hari Bol.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय.
Jai.
जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
Jai.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
everyone. Have a great day.